Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Panel Chewing Pick of the Week, episode 92. We are getting closer and closer to 100. And for those of you who are new to the podcast, every week we come and talk about the books we read this week, and then we have most of the time our favorite of the week, and we discuss it and talk about lots of other things. We also are reading the X-Men run, the Chris Claremont run on X-Men. And that is available on Libby or on Hoopla for free. So if you'd like to read along with us, we'd love to have you join us. We do read 2 issues a week. And this week we will be discussing issues 111 and 112. With all that said, Jarrod, how are you doing?
Doing great, Steve. It's another week of X-Men action, and
yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, good stuff.
It's weird going from the normal pull list from some really serious stuff to go into this book, and it's a change. It's have to switch gears a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. It is interesting. Yeah, but yeah, considering my pick of the week is extremely serious, and then and then reading the X-Men, it's like it's funny because it takes itself seriously at some points, but it's not. But it doesn't at the same time. It definitely is a product of its times, and it was looking to give people fun. But
yeah, I think I think you worded it right. Is that it takes the storytelling seriously, like it takes the structure and the characters and the way that it's told. All that is taken seriously and with care, but some of it does kind of veer into the goofy territory from time to time,
right?
Which I think is like, it's nice to have a little bit of a change up sometimes.
Yeah, the craft is taken seriously, but but there is a lot of fun to be had.
Oh yeah, definitely. So this week we usually have kind of a question or a topic or something. And this week, Jarrod, you mentioned you wanted to kind of go down memory lane a little bit.
Yeah, when I first got into comics back in the late 80s, there was, at the time, a bunch of new comics coming out that were specifically produced to be in black and white. And at the time, there was a little bit, for a couple years span there was a little bit of this black and white boom. These books, for some reason, they were low print runs. They became hot collector's items at the time. And some of the earlier issues were actually hard to find and were going for high resale on the back market, the back issue market. And some of the companies that were doing this were, like I said, small independent outfits. Warp Graphics started doing it with the ElfQuest comics, and there were other companies. Aircell Comics out of Canada was putting out all black and white stuff, and that veered off into Adventure Comics, and then Malibu Comics as well started doing some black and white stuff, and there was some other stuff there. There was some independent studios like Drew Hayes's Poison Elves, I think it was called, and like a lot of personal studios that were just one guy, one person doing their own thing and putting out their own black and white comic. And it garnered a lot of attention at the time. People, I think, were kind of looking for something other than the 4-color superhero stories, and the comic book market, the brick and mortar stores were growing at this time. There was more of them popping up. They were getting more popular with people to go and search out comic books, and there was more demand for stuff. And so I think it was these black and white comics were a good entry into that into the field at the time, and provided quite a bit of variety, separate from your standard superhero fare that Marvel and DC were putting out.
because we talked before we hit record, and I didn't remember. I couldn't remember how many. I was trying to think back to the black and white comics that I read back then. But as you mentioned, Malibu, it does ring a bell. I think wasn't there at the artist? I was trying to look it up. The artist that is a pretty popular artist. I think he had a couple of series on Malibu later, because the titles I see listed, as you said, The Men in Black, Ultra Force, and Nightman. But I think I'll have to look up what the other book was. But I think the only book that I was reading black and white back then was Faust by Tim Vigil and
That's right,
by
Tim Vision. Yeah.
and North Star Publishing, Avatar Press, and his own Rebel Studios. And that book, I think it took like 20 years to finish. I think it was,
Yeah.
and it got a little in the weeds towards the end, if I remember right. But it was one of those. It was so different. It was so different at the time that, yeah. So I think it was nice to have the kind of what. I wonder how much that kind of influenced or was a inspiration for more of the indie scene that came later.
I think it was a big inspiration because I think later on you had other stuff coming out. Once that boom was over and those companies started actually going out of business or being bought up by Marvel or what have you, like Malibu was bought out by Marvel, and but there was some inspiration taken from later creators like what I'm going to talk about later today, Eric Chanois' Age of Bronze, and Terry Moore's Strangers in Paradise, and
Tony
Jeff
Moore.
Terry Moore.
That's the name. Yeah.
Oh, Tony Moore's the other.
Tony Moore,
The other guy, but Terry Moore was for Strangers in Paradise, and the Jeff Smith's Bone.
That's right.
And Alex Robinson's Box Office Poison and stuff like that. They took their cue from that black and white boom, and they were real true draftsmen and masters of their crafts. But I think the original black and white boom showed them that it could be done, and these later creators took that and ran with it, and they did some pretty spectacular works.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit ahead of their time, and it kind of reminds me of the of like the early hip hop scene when they were selling records out of the back of their trunk, and it was more of a homegrown, they're probably not making much money, but just going out there and trying to get their work in front of people that had no way of finding it. I think we take for granted a little bit now in the age that we're in of most things being at our fingertips. Like we want something we can search for it. It wasn't like that back then. It was you had to really look for things and talk to people, and it was a lot different. So it was a lot harder too, obviously, to get off the ground, stuff like that.
Yeah, and when you when you were banking on that monthly schedule for a black and white book, any independent book that you might have found that you enjoyed, if you missed an issue, you were really SOL. I mean, like it was very little chance you were going to find that missing issue. It was a lot more difficult than like today. Like you said, you can just go and find anything. But there was if your local store screwed up and didn't order it that month, or for some reason it got suddenly popular and people just started buying it off the shelves, and you didn't have he didn't have it on your regular pull list or something like that, you would be out of luck. And so that's how it was back in those days, though. That's it was kind of the mystery of going to the comic book shop every week and finding out what came out, and finding out and with the independent publishers, it was just that greater of a mystery.
Yeah, because you go to the store and that month the book doesn't get published, you have no website to visit, you have no Google search to find out, hey, where is this issue? It was just, well, I guess they're done, or you just had to wait. So it was just a whole different world.
Yeah, they had little publications called like comic shop news that used to come with the orders, and you would hope that you would see something in there that would tell you, oh, there's going to be a delay or whatever, but that was never a sure thing. And
No, completely different world. It's a little wild to think back on those days, and just I think the only, like you said, the comic book was the publication that came out. It was the comic books to let you know what's like the what's will be published that
yeah,
week.
yeah.
And there's another. I remember Wizard had a little bit of that, but it probably didn't have more of the. I don't remember it having more of the indie stuff back then, like pre-image. I think Wizard may have been post-image.
Yeah, it was around the same time.
Yeah.
Wizard magazine. Yeah.
I think I have some somewhere stored away from all the Wizards. Try and find them.
Nice.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my nostalgia days. Good old days of comic book collecting that's where I blew all my money back then.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was those books, the more of the indie stuff was so different and hard to get that it just everything was different back then. Just kind of thinking back to that time, it took effort to find those things and you have to hear about it from somewhere, or there was no things. We're a little spoiled now.
Yeah,
It's
and
a lot harder back then.
it's also the time when you would take the time to drive 2 hours to go to some strange comic book store you happen to see in the yellow pages or something.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And there's a comic book store in this town 2 hours away. Let's go there for the Saturday. And you would go in there and hope to find something and either be disappointed at how much of a back alley store it is, or surprised at how much of a selection they might have had. So you just never knew.
Wild. Whole different time. Well, I guess with all that said, it was fun to think back and to explore that topic. I think was it Terry Moore or Terry Moore? I remember he had a black and white series. I forget the name of it. That was back then. I don't remember the name.
Yeah. Well, there was a guy called Tony Moore
Oh, Tony.
who had something. I don't remember what it was. And then Terry Moore did Strangers in Paradise. That was his main thing. Yeah.
How many books to read? So much history.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll get into this week's polls. We don't have a ton this week. It's kind of a slow week. I'm not sure what happened. When I had the list, it just wasn't all that many. But the first one, I decided to give this a try. I don't know why. But anyway, Death of the Silver Surfer, number 1. I don't know why you would kill off a character that you have a movie. It's featured in a movie soon. I don't know why you'd kill the character off unless you want to reboot it, or kind of, I don't know. Maybe I'm sure they have some kind of plan for him, but I'm not sure why you would kill Silver Surfer off. But the issue wasn't all that bad. It was okay. I thought the art was really good. I thought the colors were really good. And with Silver Surfer, you need it. You need the colors to pop because of his look. So it turns out that when you're the Herald of Galactus, who has killed probably billions of people and consumed planets, you don't make a whole lot of friends when you're his, herald. So people are out to get Silver Surfer because of what he's had to do, and so we get his perspective, and we get the perspective of people who have been killed because of Galactus. And the story was okay. I thought it was all right. This was a lot of setup. I was hoping for more of an introspective look at Silver Surfer, something more similar to Silver Surfer Requiem. It was a 4-issue series back, probably about 10 years ago, but I thought it was pretty good. But I was hoping for more of that, more of a kind of a focus on him and kind of introduction to people who don't know the character. But I don't know that I'll continue this one. It was okay, but when books like this are so close to a movie that's about to be released, I always worry that this was rushed and it's more of just kind of we have a movie coming, so let's rush a book out. So we'll see. I'm on the fence with this one. It wasn't terrible. It was okay, but not sure that I'll continue this one.
Hmm. Yeah, I used to really like the Silver Surfer a lot back in the day, and I wonder if they're killing him off to then have it resurrected as more matching what the movie's gonna do.
Hmm.
That's sometimes a motivation for these type of things.
I've heard things about the movie. I've heard spoilers. I won't repeat the spoilers, but I'm curious what they're going to do with that. So,
Yeah.
but who knows if those spoilers are even right? But they, yeah. So curious to kill a character, but I think if you are going to kill it off, like you said, they want to kind of a rebirth kind of thing.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So speaking of the black and white comics, I figured because we had such a light week, I looked into my long boxes downstairs, and I pulled out a classic goodie, Age of Bronze, #1, the story of the Trojan War, written and drawn by Eric Chanois. And this is one of those books that I happened to see the #1 issue on the stands when it came out, and I just picked it up because I flipped through it and I liked the artwork. It's a very clean line artwork. It's very precise. It's all in black and white, which, as per our conversation earlier, I really liked that era, and so it was attractive to me in that manner, and I like that you could tell the characters apart, because sometimes in black and white comics that can be a problem if the artwork isn't very specific about which character is which. And looking through this, you could tell, even though it's the Trojan War, there's a lot of characters in the Trojan War, so there's a lot to keep track of. It's an epic story, and so it was good that you could actually, his artwork was good enough to discern characters in a black and white format. And this is a retelling of the legend of the Trojan War. And this guy really did his research. He's not only using Homer's The Iliad as his source, that's his primary source, but he's also using works from classical Greece and Rome all the way up into medieval European sources. And he's combining all that stuff to give a more coherent build-up and, sort of combining of all these sources to make a story that actually doesn't skip around as much as the actual Iliad does. And because the actual Homer's Iliad can be a little confusing sometimes, because you suddenly are in another place and you have no idea why you went there and all that stuff, because it's a little bit of a, it was written down long after it was told orally down the ages, so it doesn't always make sense in the Iliad. And so Chanoir tried to take all these sources and make a straight, coherent story from start to finish. And he did it gloriously. He did a wonderful job. I really, really loved these comics as they were coming out. I was so into them, and they were like they would have been my multiple picks of the weeks if I was doing that back then. But yeah, and so and he also has a lot of archaeology research as well. He's part of a association, or he was back then, part of an association to actually dig up and look for the real Troy, and they're trying to find the ruins and stuff like that. So he knows his stuff, and it really shows in the way he presents the story, the way he draws all the clothing and all the characters and stuff like that. It's really tight. It's really well researched, well drawn. You're not going to find people in here with, plate mail, and this is really historically accurate, but he also gives a lot of character to the characters. The characters are fun to read about. They're relatable. He makes them relatable in a way that just really makes these books stand out. And so if you ever can find them, I imagine they're not too expensive, because it's one of those things that people hadn't really heard of that much. They got accolades from the critics at the time, but it wasn't like hugely successfully popular or anything like that. It was one of those image books from early in the day. And Eric Chandano's Age of Bronze. I urge anybody to, if they are willing to get on eBay or whatever and look for them, or if you have the greatest back issue comic book shop in the world, then see if you can find it.
Yeah, it looks like this was published in 98.
Yeah, the first issue in November of 98. Yeah.
Nice. I don't think I've heard of this one before. I have to add it to the list. And it looks like it is available, I believe, on Amazon.
Oh, yeah. It might be. Is it on Hoopla or something like that? I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Volume 1's available on Amazon.
The collection.
Hoopla.
Yeah.
The collection. Yeah. That'd be good to look into, see if it is on Hoopla. Of possible future series.
Yeah, I have the individual issues, and they're a treasure. They're nicely kept, bagged and boarded.
Always.
Yeah.
Does your shop give you when you receive your shipment, do your books come bagged and boarded?
Yes. Yeah, the one on the online comic place I use, they ship everything bagged and boarded, and they do a really good job at the packaging, actually.
All right, so the next one for me is Ultimate Wolverine number 6. It seems like this is the end of the first arc. The story seems ready to kind of shift gears and go into another, kind of get the plot moving. The first 5 issues were very Wolverine focused and kind of going over what's in his head, what his emotions are, kind of the situation he's in. Not so much what's happened to him, but kind of his current mental state. This issue also had a different artist. It was quite different. The style was quite different than the original artist. And not to say the art was bad, it was quite a change, but I will say that I think this is the right issue to have a guest artist, because it was more of a transitional issue. It wasn't, it wasn't ramping up to things. It was more just kind of finishing the first arc. So I think it was a good time to feature a different artist and give the main artist a break. But I still think this book has potential. I just hope that it doesn't start getting wrapped up in the other Ultimate books, and I don't have to start reading all the other Ultimate books, because I have zero interest in that. So fingers crossed that it kind of remains its own thing. And ultimately, someday I'm sure it'll cross over, because they always do, but I'm just enjoying it until it does. So. But not bad. Not bad at all. Still good. We'll continue. The next one I have is Hello Darkness 11. I'm going to be completely honest. I had kind of forgotten about this book after the war ended. After the Garth Ennis, Vicky Clunan story wrapped up, I kind of forgot about it. And then I saw it on the shelf, and I thought, oh shit, I haven't followed this book. And after this issue, I can safely say I haven't missed a whole lot. The stories in the book were were okay. They ranged from kind of fine to boring and silly. There was one story called Shit Can that was okay, but I don't know. I don't know. None of them really made me want to come back. I just kind of, and maybe it's because I started wondering, is it because the war is over and I was so wrapped up in that story? Maybe, but I just, yeah, I just didn't enjoy this one at all. Just kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
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 And but yeah, I'll keep an eye on this one. I might give it another shot, because the good thing about the anthology books is that it's different every time. So maybe it's just one of those months for this book. But I do wonder how long a book like this can go on when you have so many different artists and so many different stories. How long? Because you can't really go forever. Anthologies, I don't think anthologies rarely do, unless it's like an established franchise or kind of something a little bit more, has more of a history. So
Yeah. It makes me think of the anthology Marvel Comics Presents, which went over, well over 100 issues. But of course, they had this huge stable of characters to draw from, and they could every once in a while pull in a big hitter like Barry Windsor Smith to do a story.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and then you have characters who are established and people know them and want to read about them, and
yeah.
And the last one before we get to our picks is World Tree 15. This was a less confusing issue, but it is full of exposition and dialogue. This book, I still don't really know what's going on. I don't know if we're supposed to know, but they have definitely established a big bad, like the antagonist in the story. It's definitely been established, and this character is pretty intimidating. They do seem pretty unstoppable at this point. So you wonder how the survivors in this world are going to pull this off. The plan to defeat the big bad is kind of silly. There's a plan that just didn't. They have details of the plan, and it just, I don't know. For a book that's so takes itself pretty seriously, the plan that they have is just a little strange. But I'm still gonna read it. I hope this book ends up being okay. It's been a ride, but it's very up and down. But I'll continue with World Tree.
Well, as long as their plan isn't building a giant wooden badger, then
no, almost that bad, but not quite. Yeah, with that, we will get into our picks of the week.
Yeah.
Tell me, Dan.
All right. So moving into my pick of the week, and I should say pick of 2 weeks, because it took me 2 weeks to finish it. But this is the Parable of the Talents graphic novel adaptation of Octavia E. Butler's novel of the same name. And this is it's the second in the duology. The first one being Parable of the Sower. And this is the classic sci-fi pseudo post-apocalyptic telling of Butler's very famous and wonderful book. But these guys from Abrams Comics Art, Damian Duffy and John Jennings, they have previously adapted her book Kindred, and then Parable of the Sower, and now they've done Parable of the Talents. And if anybody is at all familiar with Butler's novel, you know that it is heartbreaking. It is sometimes tough to read with how brutal it can be to some of the characters, and the subject matter is very dark. It takes place in a in the near future of the United States, where things have just gone to hell, and
Yeah, you say that.
and and this one character is trying to survive, and it just gives you her whole story and what she went through. This adaptation specifically, though, um, they really do a great job of just taking all the main points from the novel. They use a lot of the actual prose from the book in here. It's a prose heavy graphic novel,
Mm.
and understandably so, because you don't want to lose that feeling that Butler gives. And but I gotta say, some of the images in here from the artwork really did a great job of enforcing those things that they might have missed from the prose, because it was horrifying, some of the
Mm.
stuff that happens in this story. And then now seeing it in picture form
Yeah.
was just as horrifying. It was
Mm.
there were points where you gotta like put the book down and just go, whoa, wait a minute. Because like I said, a lot of bad things happen in this book. And it in this near future, slavery is brought back in a certain form, and it's brutal, as slavery always is. And it they really capture the essence of the book, and they really hammer home the points that Butler was making. And the whole like, she has a lot of social commentary in
Right.
her writing, and they do that in a way that through the graphic part of it is also well told. The artwork is it's not like this clean line artwork that we've been talking about previously with some of the artwork. It's very thick lined. The colors are dark. They but the expressions of the people are always there. They're relevant. They're very it's full of emotion, I gotta say, is what the artwork is. And as you go through it, and you go from page to page, and you get sucked into this world, because the artwork, while I wouldn't consider it, like, if you just looked at one panel or one page, you'd be like, yeah, it's unique, it's different. But as you go through it and it sucks you in, it soon becomes to a point where you couldn't see it any other way.
Mm.
As an adaptation, and it just fits so well with the style of the story and stuff like that.
Mm.
I'm impressed once again with these guys' adaptations of Butler's works, and I hope they continue to do more as they go on. Just not too fast, because I need a break. but, but damn, it was good. It is so good.
I was a little bit surprised how dark those books were. I
Yeah.
was not expecting to be how dark and disturbing they could be at times.
Yeah. This one does end with a glimmer of hope. So, so if you didn't feel that at the end of Parable of the Sower, hold out, go through the rough patches, and hold out to the end of this one.
Good stuff. And I think adapting a novel into comic book is tough, and to take written words and to create a visual that is true to the author's vision. I think must be tough to do.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. Especially like somebody like Butler, who it's not someone you want to misrepresent, or to not give, to not deliver a quality product when you're converting artwork.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a key word. That's something if you misrepresented somehow Butler's work, it's pretty seminal stuff, and I think you would immediately be called out on it. And
No
but
pressure.
these guys did the job. They really did a great job.
Glad to hear that. Yeah, sounds awesome. All right, so the pick for me this week is one that we both read. Is the Blood Brothers Mother, number 3. This is by Distillery. And this one I think is the story ramps up, and we start to see the different storylines. We've the first issue or so, all the storylines were being separated, and now they seem to be coming back together, and with extra elements in it, with extra elements in the stories, and a collision course, and also the artwork and the colors. I think the colors are very sepia sand colors, and I think that helps convey kind of the environment, and helps you become more immersed in this environment and what the characters are in. I was surprised towards the end of this book. There's an event that happens, but I was surprised they went there, because you start to become comfortable with certain characters being around, and then suddenly one character isn't going to be around anymore, and it was one of those classic Stephen King moments where he said, Stephen King is notorious for, "This is the last time I saw so and so alive," or "This is the last time I saw
Oh yeah.
so and so," and that always irritates me. Well, most of the time, but in moments like this, it didn't irritate me, because I think it added weight and kind of meaning to this event that happens. I'm trying to not spoil it,
Mhm.
but I thought it was effective. The only thing that I have to complain about in this one is the written
Oh, I
text.
know. Yeah.
It was really hard to read, and I hope they can just add a little box behind the written handwriting, the cursive, because some of that it was really hard to read. I was zooming in and trying to read it, but other than that, I think it was another really solid book. I don't know how this is going to end. It doesn't seem like that this is a story that necessarily will have a happy ending. So we'll see, but I'm excited to see where it goes. So what did you think about this one?
Yeah, no, I agree with all that, and I agree with the handwriting too. It's fortunately I'm able to zoom in, so but it it is not pleasant to read that handwriting. But it is important though. I mean, I see what they're doing with trying to convey a certain style to fit a Western that's how you would receive your information, is that kind of handwriting, back then. So it kind of fits the tone and stuff like that. I just wish it was either a little bigger, a little clearer, like you said, or it just boxed out a certain way so that you could see it better. But that's the only really complaint. I agree with all the other stuff you said. I think this is Rizzo's best work I've seen, the artist. Because I read all of his, I read their whole run of 100 Bullets, and that was cool. But I like his style for this setting. I think it's just gorgeous, and I think, like you said, that the Western feel, the colors, it's all there, and I like that the characters keep you on your toes. I did not expect some of those decisions, and that's not because they didn't make sense. It's just because they came from a place that it seemed like in character, the decisions, but they just surprised me, because I was just like, oh, I didn't think the story was going that direction, and I thought it was really cool how, because it's really easy to take, this story is it's about a bunch of a little group of brothers. It's really easy to kind of lump them together as a single character as a story goes along, and he didn't do that here. He made them individuals, and I like I like how he did that. And yeah, and I like some of the introductions in here and some of the twists that took place. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, a couple surprises. You mentioned the artwork. Everyone looks grimy or dirty. They all look like they are living in this, on the side of the trail, and everyone looks kind of they've had better days.
Yeah, and to fit the story, everybody looks like they could kill you as well.
Yeah,
but
yeah, all of them do.
But that's typical Azzarello and Rizzo characters.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was kind of debating what my pick would be, and this is the best book I read. So that's my book of the week.
Excellent.
So, with all that said, I guess we'll move on to X-Men issues 111 and 112. And like we discussed before we hit record, I was confused opening up issue 111 because I thought, did I miss an issue? What, there was a circus? What is going on here? But it turns out it was something else.
Yeah, it was explained. I mean,
yeah.
John Byrne's artwork is fantastic.
Oh, beautiful.
I love his stuff. Really good. And yeah, we start out with the Beast, and he's like an Avenger now. So we're like, oh, what's he doing here? What's going on? And we get introduced to, we quickly get caught up when we get introduced to Mesmero, the villain.
Yeah.
And so the story proceeds from there. We find out that he's got the X-Men under his power, and they're, you got the freaking what's his name, Banshee, like Carnival Barker, which is hilarious. And and of course they all look like they belong in a circus, So,
yeah.
And the funny thing that really got me in this issue, in 111, was Wolverine was slapping the shit out of Jean the whole time.
Yeah.
Trying to get her out of that. And I was like, oh wow, look at that.
Yeah. Calling her babe. Slapping her. Yeah.
And it works. And Jean blasts him to the other side of the room, and she wakes up.
He slaps Scott around too. Slapping everybody. Yeah, that was hilarious. I saw that and I thought, whoa. That's okay.
Yeah. Funny stuff. And then at the end, their old pal Magneto steps in and kind of just knocks out what's his name? Mesmero. Takes him out. No problem.
Yeah.
And says, you guys are coming with me. Wow. And then it goes into I love how the issue ends, like 111 ends, and of course it's Magneto revealed, and then of course the next issue goes into he's flying them in a carriage to this Antarctic lair, and they try to escape the carriage, and they realize they're like thousands of feet up in the air, and
Mesmero gets tossed out.
Yeah, right, yeah, I know. And they're like, oh, don't kill him. He's like, don't worry, I'm lowering him gently to the ground so that he can come back and bother some other superhero later on in the Marvel Universe.
That was pretty funny. I thought that was hilarious when they just kind of tossed him out and floating in space.
It was funny. It was funny. And then so he flies them to this Antarctic lair, right? And it's this huge underground complex, right? And he casually mentions that he's got like 5 or 6 of these laying around the world.
He's a busy man.
I'm just like, when did he do all that? Wasn't he like turned into a baby or something? I don't know.
When I guess it's because he can move metal and he can build things very quickly. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And he's a fantastic architect,
Mhm.
apparently. uh, it's
Structural
funny.
engineering, he's
Yep.
the whole nine.
Yeah. Yeah. Funny stuff. Funny stuff. The question I had was, why was the Phoenix limited in
Hmm.
what she could do at that point?
Hmm.
I wasn't quite sure why, and I'm wondering if and I was trying to think about it because this is the reread for us, and if I'm remembering correctly, she puts a limit on herself, and eventually that kind of gets broken through with the White Queen when she, Fire in the Future here.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I couldn't remember what it was, but um, she's trying to create a phoenix bottle effect, or no, he's created a bottle effect that draws her life energy out of her like a sponge. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know we say this I think every week, but the amount of foreshadowing and the setup for that event,
Yeah.
wild.
It's crazy. It really is.
And I
Yeah.
especially liked when he makes Wolverine punch himself when he has his claws out. He draws his claws in at the right minute,
I
at the
know.
right moment. He slaps
I
himself
know.
in the face.
And he's making Colossus fly around and just throwing him around with the metal, and oh man, it's hilarious. And then what do you say? He said somebody almost got through his defenses or something like that. I think it was Scott with the I-beam Cyclops, and then he was like, I overcame that. Nothing can defeat me now. And he at the end, I guess he's got them all set up for a fate worse than death.
Yeah. Be helpless like children.
Yeah, that's right, because he wanted to get them back from making for what happened to him.
Hmm. I love John Burns' art though.
It is so good. I'm like, I forgot like how good his artwork was, and it's so cool looking at it again. He was really talented.
Yeah. Beautiful artwork. As much as I miss Cockrum and his artwork, it, Cockrum has some very thick lines, some very bold lines and everything. And I really like that. But it's looking at John Burns' art, it is much more subtle, but it's still very neat and clean. And they're bold lines, but they're not thick like Cockrum's art is.
Mm.
So it's very smooth.
Yeah, and I really like his figure work too. I think it's just very um it it just like the proportions are all there, and everything's just um his uh his his like his line work really has a sense of I don't know, like fine work, fine artwork. It has really good perspective in the panel, and it has just really good. I don't know, all the characters just seem so alive on the page.
Yeah, awesome artwork. These two issues were a little pretty fun. They were entertaining. They were funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm guessing it's intentional.
Yeah, I would think so. I wonder how long, because we've said that quite a bit throughout this short run we've been on so far about how amusing some of these stories are at points. And I wonder how long that lasts for us, because I don't remember that when I first got into the X-Men, which was much later than this storyline, but when I first got into the X-Men, I don't remember it. I don't remember being amused. I remember just, oh wow, this is cool. What's going to happen next? So I wonder how long this is going to last until it gets into a more somber tone or more serious tone or whatever.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, because I remember back when I read it, I don't remember it being humorous. I just thought it was fun. I wonder, does it come with age, or is it because we become desensitized? And before, what we thought was just like a fun time, now is more of a humor.
Yeah, gets a little goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's to be determined as we move along here.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how kind of when the Phoenix stuff really does start. I'm curious to see what our reaction will be then.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, another week in the books. We'll be reading 113 and 114 next week, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once again, this run of X-Men is available for free to read for anyone on Hoopla or Libby. All you need to sign up for either of those is a library card, which you can get for free. If you don't have a library card, you really should.
Yeah.
Because it's a great resource. I know a lot of us forget about libraries once we get older, but it's a great resource. There's awesome services like Libby, Hoopla. So there's a ton of books to read that you can check out from your local library. And there's so many things. There's so many books, comic books. There's music you can check out from your library. So take advantage of it.
Yep.
Especially now, I know times are tough. So, take advantage. Use your resources. It's a great way to read some awesome stuff.
And movies too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Movies. Yeah. It's crazy. So another week in the books, but Jarrod, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and you can find me at Speculative Speculation podcast and Film Chewing for the Oscar Project, which we're currently going through now, and some other fine places on page chewing as well.
Yeah, we are going. We did The Godfather. We have The Sting, and we have Godfather 2. What a stretch!
Yeah,
how cool is that?
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So really looking forward to that one. And so you can find us on pagestream.com. There's also a link in the description if you'd like to send us a message directly, or we can be found on the forum at pagestream.com. Just register for an account, and I go through and try to be on top of approving, or I want to be sure that whoever we let in isn't a bot or someone that's going to come in and spam. So yeah, sometimes it takes me a day or so, but if I don't respond, just try again, and I'll try to approve all the new accounts. So until next time, we hope everyone has a great rest of your week, and we hope you find your pick of the week.
Bye-bye.